to the Purple Warriors podcast. I'm your host, Ali Sugars, and thank you for joining us. This podcast is about raising awareness for domestic and family abuse by allowing survivors to share their own journeys to recovery. You will find practical yet powerful information and tools that you can immediately implement into your own journey to recovery. You will also hear information on how you can help someone you suspect may be in a toxic relationship. To support this podcast and get access to amazing bonus content, click Become a Patron for more information. If you have a story to share, reach out to me, Ali F. Sugars, on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. Hosts and guests will often discuss sensitive topics in detail. While this is done with the utmost respect and dignity, this may cause triggers for some listeners. Hey everyone, how are you? Welcome to this episode of the Purple Warriors podcast. And today we have a fabulous guest, my good friend Adaire Palmer. She is actually going to be sharing her personal story today on workplace bullying and abuse. Now, if you have heard my recent episode about my story to do with workplace bullying and abuse, you will understand why I am extremely interested in what she is going to share with us today. So, welcome Adaire.
Thank you, Ali. It's great to be here.
Great to have you here, my darling. So tell us, what made you decide to come on today to share your story with us?
I'd actually heard you talking inside of the Women in Business Adelaide community, and you said that you have a podcast and that you talk about bullying and abuse and moving through it and survivors and how we regroup after experiences that shape our lives, and we can let it shape our lives. And I reached out because I thought sharing my experiences of bullying in the workplace and abuse, harassment, bullying in the workplace may help somebody else who's going through a similar thing.
Definitely. I actually know it definitely will. So thank you for coming on today. So tell us, when did your workplace experiences begin, as in the bullying in the workplace?
Okay, so it actually was probably about, it was around about as in the 1990s. It was, but in this particular workplace, it probably would have been around the mid to late 2000s. So I'd been in this workplace for several years, and the first few years were amazing. We were absolutely really achieving some stuff. We had a brilliant team, fantastic manager, and things were flowing beautifully. We were making some real impact and some real inroads in what we were trying to do and the services that we were delivering inside of the workplace. And then they had a change of guard, if you like, and then it all sort of went to hell in a handbasket. So it was probably there about 8 years, and then it started to get bad. So
wow. So after 8 years, oh, that's interesting, far out. So tell us about your experiences and what happened.
Right, well, I was actually working in emergency services, and I was working with the volunteers, and I mean, my God, they are amazing people. There was about 20,000 at that point, volunteers across South Australia, for emergency services that I was working with as a management consultant, and I managed a team of people that delivered the services that were non-operational services, and we were having an amazing time. When they had the change of guard and they had brought in new managers, the old manager had left, and I was put into offered the position, won the position as temporary manager, and that was extended for 3 months at a time, and they did that for 2 years. And I actually had no line manager either, so it was extremely poor management structures, and so there was no line manager, and it was round. I think it was incompetence on the part of HR in particular. There was absolutely no support, and it was the whole organisation. I wasn't in any of the operational emergency services. I was actually in the Fire and Emergency Services Commission, and the structure there, the way it was run, it was a toxic work environment, absolutely toxic working environment, and it came from the top. And so when I was in this position and looking for some stability and in what I was doing, because I was still managing the team, and we actually ended up with some toxic members in the team as well, and that actually was something that made it really difficult, because trying to manage that, and then when they did, after 2 years of being a temporary manager and not having a line manager, but sort of reporting directly to the CEO, because he sort of would direct me on a day-to-day basis. I actually had the Minister for Emergency Services also directing me on a day-to-day basis.
That's very confusing.
It was extremely stressful, and there was no good HR practices. But that was the environment that I was working in. So it's important to understand that environment. We did have, as we moved past that, they brought in an actual line manager after 2 years, and his focus was upwards and not downwards. And so immediately our values were clashing in terms of my sole reason for being there was to serve the volunteers. His sole reason for being there was to serve the minister. And so he was heavily involved in local government and was looking to climb the greasy pole as a councillor in local government as well. So there was a lot of politicking, and there was a lot of stuff happening that created this like really, really terrible environment that was like, for me, it was like just what the actual has happened here. so it was, so I was sort of over a couple of years, or 3 years probably, was sort of slapped out of my reverie. It was like I think it was like the boiling, you put the frog into the pot and you don't actually realise what's happening. And so, and by the time it became he'd aligned it, well, one of my staff members had aligned themselves with this manager, and was decided that she wanted my job, and and they were working, like, I have no evidence of this, but I suspect they were working in conjunction with each other, because he wanted her. They were very close, and he wanted her, I think, on at a more senior level. So while I have no evidence of this is what I observed happening, and more and more I was sidelined. And so when she, just an important part of the story also is I was responsible for setting up and managing and coordinating the Working in Harmony program across emergency services for South Australia. So that was my brief, and among other things, there was lots of other projects that I was involved in setting up and spearheaded, but this was one that was particularly close to my heart. And up until the first 8 years, I had done like an incredible amount of putting my heart and soul into setting up these programs, including the Working in Harmony program. And that was working really well. So what that was, just in a nutshell, it was a program that implemented the harassment and bullying policies and procedures right across the volunteer emergency services in South Australia. So so I had a 1300 number, and I say we, it's not the royal we, because I could never do it without a team. So we had a 1300 number that was staffed by staff members, 24/7. So any volunteer could access any one of my staff members. They were on a rotating roster, so we took it week about. We actually paid them for their time that they were on the roster. So, and then I recruited a team of volunteer harassment contact officers right across Australia, South Australia. So we ended up with about 50 that were trained. So I recruited and trained them in the policies and procedures in helping people who felt they'd been harassed or bullied at the local level. So this is right into a brigade or a unit across those country fire service or state emergency service. And that was set up, and that was going really well. In conjunction with that, I'd also set up developed and did train the trainer for what a training package called Workplace Dignity Training. And in conjunction with an amazing consultant called Andy Sebastian. So shout out to you, Andy, if you're anywhere here. I haven't had contact with you for a long time, but she had the expertise and the knowledge in the work health safety regulations in regard to harassment and bullying. So we worked together, and I set up this training with her expert knowledge in the content, and set up the systems for the training to go out to every brigade and every unit in South Australia. And there were, I can't remember, but I think there was well over 100 brigades in South Australia, and over 60 units. So brigades of the country fire service, units of state emergency service. And the brief was for the team that I ran. They were located in 6 places around South Australia, regional South Australia, and their brief was to go out and do the training in every single brigade and every single unit in their patch, in their area of responsibility. So I had invested a huge amount in this because I absolutely believed that the way that it was education, it was providing avenues for people to be able to have some options explained and support if they felt they'd been harassed or bullied. And I invested so much, and I believed in the system. That's a really important point. I actually believed in what I'd set up, and I was championing it. And like I said, I gave it life, if you like, and I perhaps held it a little bit too close to my heart because it was, it definitely was sat very strongly with the value system that I have about, sort of we're all linking arms and let's have a group hug and all that, what they used to call, warm fuzzy shit in emergency services. So if they weren't on the back of a truck doing the operational stuff, we did find it a little bit difficult to work into, but we used our excellent communication skills and we started getting some inroads. So programs like that were often seen as back, as I said, warm fuzzy shit, but we did start having some inroads and some successes. So then fast forward to the time where we had this change of guard, had this manager who was aligned with one of my staff members, or one of the staff members who had aligned herself with the new manager who had completely conflicting values. And I didn't actually even realise it at the time. And it came back to me, there was a heap of stuff around this particular staff member, and there was complaints, many complaints about spreading rumours, backstabbing and poor behaviour, unethical, inappropriate and definitely unprofessional behaviour by what she was saying. And it wasn't just from in the team, it was from other people in particular in the region that she was working in. But nobody would put their name to it. So they would come to me and they would say, hey, I heard her say this to her, or she said this to me. And I'll say, are you willing to put in a complaint? Because you can't actually act on it unless you have someone that says, I'm willing to stand by, because otherwise it's, sort of, well, it still is she said, or she said, he said. So it was frustrating, because as a manager, I wanted to stamp out that behaviour, but following the processes that I'd implemented, I couldn't do anything. So, and that was based on the policy and procedure, which is based on the work health safety regulations, legislation regulations. So I'd immersed myself in it. I knew exactly what I could and couldn't do. And, so at one point, then there was one of my other staff members who came to me and said, this girl had said stuff to her about me. And I said, are you willing to put your name to it? And she said, yes. And I went, oh my God, I have to act, because otherwise it just makes me, there's no integrity, there's no, nothing there. And I'm going, well, so personally, and at that point, because there was the undermining from the manager, the line manager, and I was in a pretty bad place by then, sort of drinking heavily and wanting to escape it all, but feeling stuck, felt like, I was walking through quicksand.
I totally understand all that.
Actually, it was sewage. It felt like I was walking through sewage every day, just to get to work. And I had many mental health days, and it was just really, really awful. And so I went to the manager, and I said, I want to make a complaint. I've written it up, and I want to make a complaint. And he said, I'll investigate it. Now he was advised by the I can't even remember what it's called now. I've just I can't so much. In the work health safety section, they have a counselling, employee assistance program type counselling section, where they go and do debriefs after events, and they provide one-on-one counselling and psychological services to people and they actually dealt with the staff side of things. So they would, for workplace bullying, harassment, they would deal with the staff in conjunction with HR. So it was sort of like a bit of a staff/volunteer division on like inside of that this particular unit. And the girl there who I was dealing with, she's amazing, and she knew her stuff. She'd been doing it for years, and she advised the manager to outsource or get an independent investigator. He actually chose to investigate it himself, and he talked to the staff member who said she'd put her name to this complaint, like to having this conversation with the girl that I put the complaint against him. He investigated it, and he said he can't find an outcome because it was her word against this other girl's. And I knew my right of appeal. He actually said in the investigation report there was no right of appeal, and I knew that I had a right of appeal. So I went to his line manager, who I found out later had worked with him in a previous job, and I asked for an appeal because I thought that the outcome, was unfair. And the girl that had put her name to it, she went to him and said, well, are you calling me a liar? And he said, no, I'm not calling you a liar, but I'm not finding an outcome. So the process was thwarted. When I went to his line manager, as you were supposed to do, they said, he's actually said there's no right of appeal, so you get no right of appeal. So I was not given a right of appeal. And so then I was looking at the options that I had according to the policies and procedures that I'd implemented, and escalating it further. So one of those options was taking it to the Public Service Association. I was a member there, and they said basically, if you haven't gone, you go back to your organisation and you have to escalate it through there. And so I went back there. So it was running around in circles, and I was absolutely getting nowhere. And it was almost like the players at that time, they, it became sort of personal. It felt personal. It really did. And it was like, well, they want me out. Well, I'm not going. And they even sent one of the counsellors, like a psychologist from the Employee Assistance Program, to come and visit me at my home when I was on extended sick leave, and said, don't even think about putting in a work cover claim because they'll eat you alive. You know, so it really got way out of control. And, you know, so there was some other things happened, but that was sort of like the crux of where it started from. And that went on for that went on for way too long. It was probably 18 months, even longer, before I'd actually ended up leaving. But by that time I was a broken mess. Seriously, a broken mess.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. I mean, you know, yes, there's all the logistics happening, you know, and, you know, like you said, you're going round and round in circles, but how was it affecting you mentally and physically?
Yeah, I had no confidence in myself, none at all. Like I said, I was drinking heavily because I just wanted it to go away. I thought it was all my fault. I didn't know. I did not know what to do, because not only had the system failed me, but the system that I set up had failed me. And it was awful. It was like, oh my God, I'm such a failure at everything. Like, and I had so much faith in that system. And it just, you know, and I think the one of the biggest thing was that you don't factor in the humans, do you? When you're doing it. Yeah, so it was devastating, and there was a year there where I had my relationships were shot. My marriage went down the toilet. I was diagnosed with asthma. My body was covered in psoriasis. I'd spent probably all up maybe 2 months in the dermatology day unit in the old Royal Adelaide Hospital, and having tar baths and putting like really heavy steroid creams on the plaque where the psoriasis would come up, and it was all over my body. It was I had whooping cough that year as well. I had, like, seriously, it was the year from hell. Or as the Queen said one year, anus horribilis, whatever. I don't know if you remember that. So, yeah, and it really was. I was the lowest point. And in fact, when I lost my license for DUI as well. And yeah, so it was really like the warning signs are there, but I didn't see them. Because I'm just got caught in this sewer, the septic of what was my life then. It was just,
and that's terrible. The thing too. We are often so immersed in what's going on that you know, number one, we can't see what's happening to us ourselves. We kind of get so deep in it. But I think it's really important here also to point out to maybe the perpetrators or the bulliers, whatever you want to call them, they don't realise that, you know, what they're doing, how it affects people. You know, when we go to work, we go to and present ourselves as professionals, you know, to try to hide it. So they don't necessarily see what's happening in the background. You know, like when you say we're walking through sewage, you know, losing our license, we're drinking heavily, we're doing all this stuff is happening to us mentally and physically, you know.
And the shame that was around, you know, especially the DUI. Yeah. That was like, you know, seriously, and it wasn't even a wake-up call. It was, and I was blaming people a lot for that and going, well, you know, if you guys weren't such assholes, I'd be able to cope. So there was an element of blame there, which is, you know, I think, but seriously, it was really the shame around that, and the shame about, you know, sort of not being able to cope and not being able to perform my job. And I kept going back to that job that I loved in that same workplace. And I'm going, what did I do wrong? what have I done wrong? So it was a lot of also self-blame as well, as, you know, sort of blaming other people for their behaviour. So, yeah.
Tell me this then. This is a question that I've just thought of. So you said that it was a system that you had set up, that you had implemented. My question to you is, do you think that the people that you took the complaint with, so your boss or line manager or whatever he was, do you think he actually followed that system through properly?
No, he didn't.
So therefore, it's not really that the, you know, your system failed you, it's that he failed you.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely did. He absolutely, definitely did. And his line managers failed as well. In the middle of it, I couldn't see that. I could not see that. So when he said, you've got no right of appeal, and I went to his line manager and said, I actually do have a right of appeal. And she said, no, you don't. And then the PSA said, oh, we'll send you back to deal with it internally. I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. And I just wanted to just crawl under a rock and not deal with it, because it was, you know, what started as there's been bullying and harassment here, and, you know, and following that process, because I had I knew that the process would work. We'd actually used it with other people, and, you know, like when people are put in, and obviously the lowest, so you get about 5 options, that you can do, and one of them is resolve it at the lowest level. So that's where we were focused, and I did that myself. So when I put in the complaint, I said to him, all I want to do is, and I didn't go back to her and say, oh, you said this to her, because there was already those dynamics that were happening in the workplace. But I said to him, all I want is an apology from her. I didn't want a head on a plate. I just wanted her to stop saying things, and an apology. That's all I wanted.
Fair enough.
And yeah, so when he found that there was a she said type thing, or she said he said, whatever, and didn't actually, I didn't get the apology, and then it was like there was nowhere to go. I just really felt like I was caged, and no one was hearing me. And that's one of the important things in the principles of natural justice, is that you feel that you are heard. Even if you don't get the outcome you want, you need to feel like you've been heard. And that
absolutely. That's really important, you know, and I totally agree with what you said. Even if you don't get the outcome that you want, at least you can walk away going, okay, I tried. I've been heard, someone's listened to me. So I get that too. Yeah. So, you know, like when you've gone through all that horrific stuff, now obviously you said you're no longer working there. So tell us how your time there came to an end.
Okay, so as a result of that particular complaint, they dealt with it by moving me out from under that line manager and into another department. Now, it was in the same organisation, and they gave me a job that I did not have the skills to do. I was hooked. I was in the mentality that I needed my 6-figure salary to be able to maintain the lifestyle that I wanted, and, you know, sort of service my bills. And because we do, you know, I mean, I made some poor choices financially, but, you know, I'll own that. But I was for the money. It was all right. Well, I need to keep my job. I need to keep earning at this level, and I agreed to move across. Now, the position that they put me in was so not suited to my skills. That was even further soul destroying. And again, there were, you know, some okay people there, but they had expectations, because the people that I worked with there, or one that was the line manager, he saw what I did when I was really flying. And, you know, when I was doing this stuff in the first 8 years, and he was happy to say, oh, come over here and, you know, you can do this because I know that you're capable of great stuff. I had no training. I had no background knowledge. I've moved from one sector to another, so from volunteer management to emergency management, and I didn't know the actual, like the mechanics of how that industry worked. I didn't know the players because I'd been involved in volunteer management and I was a leader in the field in that area. But in emergency management, it was like, whoa. And when you do that to someone who's disenfranchised and who is, you know, not well mentally, emotionally, physically, and think that that's going to solve the problem for the line manager with his staff. So he got what he wanted, and the other girl got that position. So they were working together. Yes, that was. But I was moved sideways, and I was floundering. I absolutely, and then I was going again. My ability to perform was severely compromised, and I didn't do the job that they wanted me to do. And I was angry, I was hurt, I blamed myself, I blamed other people. I didn't know where to go to get help because I didn't feel safe. So, and that went on for a couple of years. And then when I left, I actually decided, because again, the manager who had said, yes, come and work for me, he'd retired. And then there were some other people come in, another change of guard. And then it was almost like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
So while there was a sort of an element of support and encouragement from that area, when he left, it was like I felt exposed and vulnerable again. And so I did that for some time, barely hanging on with my fingertips. And in fact, when I, got to have my license back by that time, and I'd be in the car and I'd be looking for trees to run into. Seriously, it was that bad.
Wow.
I was, and then the doctor said, I'd been to the doctor many, many times over that period of, it's probably about 4 years between when it really started and when I left. And I should have left like within 12 months, but you can't see it coming.
No, it just kind of hits you all of a sudden, doesn't it, for one of the better phrase?
Well, it's like like I said before, it's like putting a frog in a pot of cold water and then waiting till it comes to the boil, and then going, it's like you're fried, you don't know it. So at one point, there was some. I started looking for. So I'm just going, I have to get out of here, but I don't know what to do because I couldn't apply for other jobs because I didn't have the confidence to even the energy to write my resume or apply for jobs. And I wanted to stay, it was in government, and I wanted to stay in government because that's security. And they make you do war and peace. They had targeted voluntary separation packages, and I was going, I'd love to have a TVSP. And then they said, no, it only goes if your position goes. No, we have to keep your position. And so there was, they couldn't even make me redundant. So there was nothing in it for me, and it was just getting worse and worse. So one day I'd been looking for home-based work and what I can do to be self-employed, because I just thought, if I'm having an asshole boss, I want that to be me. I really did not want I wanted to be responsible for my own outcomes. And I just thought, I'm rejecting the whole system. And I don't think I consciously knew it at the time, but I knew that I had to get out. And I knew that I wouldn't, I didn't feel safe. And even staying in government, I just didn't have the energy to apply for other jobs it just, my self-confidence, my self-worth, everything was just at rock bottom. And so to be able to step up and go, I think I can do that job over there in another part of government, say with education department or, you know, something, another department, then it would have been, I just didn't have, like, I'd look at it and I'd go, I can't do that. I don't know, you know, and even though I would have been absolutely capable of doing that, whatever it was, I just didn't have the confidence or the self-worth to think that I could, and the energy to write those War and Peace applications. So over probably maybe a 6-month period, I kept looking more and more for online work. I was looking for anything, like seriously anything. And then I decided that I would just leave. And so after, there was one day that I just went, I'm not coming back. It was a Friday, and I just remembered packing up my desk. And I hated myself for doing it like this, because I felt like I'd gone as far as I could. And I knew that if I had to come back on Monday, I would have done something on the weekend to make sure that there was no me on Monday. It was that bad. So I packed up my desk. That happened over maybe the week before, just taking things that were personal things. And then on the Monday, and I don't even really remember making a conscious decision, but I just said on the Monday, I rang up and I just said, I went to the doctor and I said, I want all my sick pay, all my sick leave. And I calculated I had like months of sick leave, which was, you know, because accumulated over the decade, more than a decade that I was there. And he said, because I thought, you know, you probably have to go and take it a week at a time and then just keep, you know, sick leave that. But he was great. I said to him, this is what's happening. And he was great. And he said, tell me how long you've got, and I'll write out a sick certificate, medical certificate for the whole lot. Yeah. And that was a huge load off my mind. And so I did that, and then I submitted that to HR, and that was several months. And then I took all my long service leave, which I resented that, because I'd got all my long service leave. I took all of that because when I was planning, for long service leave, I was going to go on holiday for a couple of months, and now I'm using it to pay the rent and pay the mortgage and eat and live. And I really resented that. And then I had all my holidays as well. So the sick leave came first, then the holidays came, then the long service leave. And that took me to just over 12 months of, I guess, recovery. So what I'd done in that time was I basically curled up under my bed. I wasn't even on my bed. I was curled up in the fetal position under my bed crying. And and then I just decided that, you know, I needed to restart my journey, but I didn't know what to do or how to do it. But I had to heal first. So I just, you know, kept looking for work online, wanting to do it, because I didn't think I had any skills that I was able to do. But I built a community. I mean, I'd actually signed up with a network marketing company because I thought that was going to be, you know, the whole thing that says, all right, well, I'm going to make 6 figures now being a network marketer. And well, that didn't eventuate. But what had come of that was I learned a whole lot around social media, what to do, what not to do. And I built a community through Meetup. So I built a community as in Meetup, because my background is in community development. Wherever I go, I tend to do that. It's just, I think it's part of my DNA. It's like, let's get like-minded people together and have a group hug. And I thought that I actually built a really thriving community through Meetup, and it was called Adelaide Anti-Aging and Youthful Living, because the network marketing company that I got into was all around anti-aging and, you know, living younger. And because my I was going to, you know, sort of get them along to meetups and then just say, hey, buy my product and sign up. But before the first meetup happened, I came to my senses, and I actually had guest speakers, and I had the products just surreptitiously in the background, and I had inquiries about it, and I'd give some away for door prizes, and it was nice. It was never replacing my income that I had, but it gave me an outlet. And because I built this community, I had an offer to do hypnotherapy in return for sending an email for to that community on Meetup. And I just think it's like one of the things that you cannot anticipate is when you let it unfold in front of you, you can't anticipate where the help is coming from or where you're going to end up. So I didn't know what hypnotherapy was, and I went, oh, yeah, free training for sending a couple of emails. They even gave me the email copy, and I did it. I sent it off. I did the hypnotherapy training. I loved it. I opened a clinic. I started actually earning some money, and then I went and did the NLP training, and just and then a whole new world opened up, and it was just amazing. I'm so grateful.
So good.
Yeah, so I met amazing people who are heart-centered and who want to help people, support each other. It was just a whole, I had no idea these people existed.
And it's clear now, just watching you talk about it now, you know, the difference watching you talk about your workplace experience and now talking about what you do is just, you know, it's a total 180. So you can tell, and it is amazing how we get led into what we're doing through our experiences. And I've got no doubt, like, you know, I'm going on an assumption here, but I'm assuming that the hypnotherapy was very therapeutic to you.
That's exactly right. It was. You are assuming correctly. It was one of those things that doing the hypnotherapy had helped me to get my own life. It was actually, the hypnotherapy was great. NLP combines neuro-linguistic programming. For those of you who don't know NLP, it's about reprogramming and getting rid of some beliefs and conditioning that's instilled in us in early life or before birth, and there's a whole heap of stuff that goes along with that. But it is one of the most powerful modalities that I know, coupled with energy healing. So there's like, I wouldn't discount any of it, but for me it was one of the most powerful things to do the timeline transformation therapy and to actually get rid of some of that stuff that I was carrying around from years and years ago that I didn't even know was affecting me. Because I thought it was the here and the now that was bringing that stuff, but it wasn't. It was stuff that was years and years ago. Really powerful stuff. And yes, you can't be a healer without healing yourself.
Very well said. Extremely well said.
Yeah.
So a question I have for you now, and I'm really interested in the answers to these next couple of questions. So when you first left your position, your government position, how did you cope with things like when you went past the workplace or when you might have come across someone that you used to work with? How did you cope emotionally, you know, physically? What happened?
I couldn't go near it. I could not drive down the street where it was. It's in the city, and I could not drive down. I reckon that was probably 2, maybe even 3 years before I could not, when I'd even think about it, I would have, my throat would clench up, my guts would twist into a knot, and it was like such a dense negative energy that I would feel. I couldn't even. I could not go near it. It just was awful. So, yeah.
What about when you came across someone like, and when I say come across, I mean even like seeing a photo of them or, you know, coming across them on social media. How did you cope with that?
I walked the other way. I blocked everybody on social media.
Yep.
That's the first thing I did. But I remember seeing one of them, someone in the street in the city, and it wasn't near that area. And I just like, you know, the fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
I just bolted. I went the other way, and I just, you know, heart's pounding and, you know, getting cold sweats, and it was like a physiological reaction that I just went, this is like, and that was a couple of years after as well. Really.
Far out.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
now that it's, like you said, that was a little while ago. So now that it's a few years down the track, how are you now?
Well, I'm pleased to say I'm here and I'm healthy and I've never been happier. I actually met a potential client for social media for coffee in the place right outside of that building. This was about 2 weeks ago. And he said, why are we meeting here? And I went, well, because I know the car park. And I know that this, you know, because I've been out of the city now for several years, and there's new things happening all the time. So I thought we'll meet there and then go for coffee. But we actually had coffee in the old, what was the CPS building, and which is now a coffee shop. So things change. And as I was walking out of the lift, I parked there, I was walking out of the lift, and one of the girls that she wasn't in, she was in the association, volunteer association that I used to work with, and there was some, like, she's nice enough, but there was always some bit of tension there as well, because I think the volunteer association thought they should be doing what we were doing. But anyway, that's another story for another time. That's just dynamics and politicking. And I didn't recognise it. And when she was walking in the lift as I was walking out, and so she recognised me and went, oh, hi. And then I went, oh, hi, and then walked out. But it was like, then I went, oh, that's who it is. So I have left all of that behind, and I actually met at one of Sue Redmond's girls' night out that we had a while, or probably in the last 12 months or so. One of the girls who was involved in one of the departments, and we had some conflict, and there was some, you know, like, she wasn't the one that was involved in the bullying, but she wasn't a nice person to work with, and I felt very threatened by her and her behaviour towards me. And I felt like it was bullying behaviour, but I saw her there, and I was able to go up and say, hi, how you doing? What are you doing now? And funny enough, she was telling me about the horrible experience she had, because she left not long after I did, which was really interesting. But there was, you know, so it really is interesting how there was no negative energy. It's just a place. It's just a person. It wasn't, you know, so it's like I've taken my power back and like reclaimed who I am, and that's so powerful.
It is powerful because as someone who has only, not even 3 years ago, gone through a horrific workplace bullying and harassment experience, I personally am still dealing with a lot of those issues where I can't, I'm unable to enter the suburb that I used to work in. I don't actually know what I would do if I saw someone who I'm no longer in contact with that I used to work with. I don't know. So it is really encouraging, you know, for me to hear you say those things. So thank you for encouraging me to know that there is hope coming.
There is hope coming. And the other thing to remember for anyone out there who has been through something similar is don't beat yourself up about it, because you don't, it's like you're grieving. You have to allow yourself to go through the process, because it unfolds. And I remember listening to Bob Proctor And I really, when I was healing, there was a lot of people that I hooked into to get advice and to, you know, as mentors, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, Bob Proctor was another one. And he was talking about a paradigm shift. So going from where you are to where you want to, like, to have a completely different outlook on life. And I'd go, God damn it, Bob, I know that I'm here. I know I want to be here. I don't know how to bridge that gap. And one day he said something that was really, really powerful. He said exactly that. You might be here, you want to be here, you don't know how to do it. He said, just trust. He said, you can watch a rosebud and you can look at it and you can never take your eyes off it. And then one day it'll be a bloom. You'll never see it move. And the penny dropped. I'm going, oh my God, I don't get a paradigm shift like that. Some people might. I sure as hell didn't. But if you are in that space and you know that where it is isn't working for you, just know that just keep on that path, because you'll blossom. And one day you'll look back and you'll go, I cannot remember that defining moment when that rosebud finally opened. Because I can't put my finger on it, but it was really, really helpful for when I heard him say that, because then I let go and I stopped being anxious about wanting to be here and getting here. And I just thought, well, I've just got to let it unfold as it unfolds. And so that's my advice, is give yourself a break, not, you know, for you and everybody else who's in a similar position, and just keep looking to do things that are healing for you.
Brilliant.
The more you move towards that, the more you'll move away from that.
Brilliant. And I love that you use the rose analogy, because I actually, a couple of weeks ago now, drove into my driveway and I all of a sudden saw some roses, you know, some flowers in my garden. And I literally had that thought. It was just like, your life is exactly like that, Ali. One day there's nothing there, but the next day there's a bunch of flowers blossoming. So I love that you use that analogy. That's amazing.
Well, there's no accidents.
There you go. There's not. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question now that I ask all my guests who come on and share their personal stories. So if you could go back and speak to yourself before all of that stuff happened, what advice would you give to yourself?
I would say to love yourself.
Yep.
Because whatever you deal with, now it could be a relationship breakdown, it could be bullying in the workplace, it could be anything that makes you upset. If you've got an inherent sense of love for yourself and self-worth, and I had to do a lot of work on that, then you can deal with anything. So, you know, it is, because if you know that in here that you're always going to be okay, whatever gets thrown at you from the outside, it doesn't matter.
Beautiful.
So it really is. And I've actually attended self-love retreats. I still do daily work on, you know, on myself. And it just is an ongoing process to just keep raising my energy and my vibration and how I feel about myself. And because, you know, it's like, you just can't help anyone else unless you are, you know, and as you rise, you bring other people with you.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah. So to Adaire back in back in the early mid 2000s, you know, just love yourself, sweetie. Yeah.
Love it. That's absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much for that, because that, you know, that means what you have shared today means a lot to me. And, you know, I have been nodding all the way through because I've just been going, yep, I know, I get it, I agree with you. So thank you very much, my darling. Now, so you said that you obviously, you know, your systems and how to implement them. And you said that you're now working as a social media specialist, and you've told me that you're working with alternative therapies and heart-centered businesses in that space. So tell us a little bit about that and how people can get in contact with you.
Okay, so when I was doing hypnotherapy, that actually morphed because of the work that I'd done. I actually did a bit of a gig with consulting to not-for-profits also, which I hadn't mentioned, but that was a small thing because I came from not-for-profits before I went to government. So I went back and did some work in that space as well. But my main gig was the network marketing, and because I didn't want to work for someone ever again. So consulting is different from working for someone. And as part of that, because I did enjoy the social media and I was learning it through through what I was doing with the network marketing, I actually implemented some social media policies and procedures and taught a couple of organisations, not-for-profit organisations, to how to do social media. And I really loved that part of it because I could see the potential of it getting, for actually getting you in communication and getting you in contact with people that need your services or need to hear what you have to say. And so as a hypnotherapist, I'll just set up my page and just do what I was teaching back then and then what I was learning as well. And I just found that it was pretty much effortless. There was a bit of offline promotion as well, but mainly it was online, and it was just kept a regular stream of people coming in. And then I had other hypnotherapists going, well, how do you get your clients? And I said, well, I just use social media mainly. I do, like I said, some offline stuff, but mainly social media. And then one said, will you show me? And I went, sure. So he was working a 9-day fortnight. So once a fortnight, he would come over on a Friday morning, and I'd set up in my dining room and I would show him what to do to build his page on Facebook. And then I figured, and he was prepared to pay me. So I figured if one person was prepared to pay me, maybe two would be, and if two would be, maybe four. I capped it at 6 because my dining room table's not that big. And then so I did that for about a year, but basically people would come through once a fortnight and I would teach them how to do some really basic social media on their Facebook pages. And then that grew and it grew and it grew. And then I was doing both, and then it seems like next minute I'm full-time social media, and I'm going, my heart is singing because I'm now helping people help people. So I'm able to increase my impact by helping people find clients to serve. And I'm going, wow, I get goosebumps. Does that not fit exactly what I'm about? And being able to expand because if I was doing one-on-one hypnotherapy, I'm only helping one person. But if I'm helping hypnotherapists to help their clients, and I'm helping 2, 3, 4, 10 hypnotherapists or spiritual-based healers, or them help their clients, then I've just expounded my impact exponentially.
So isn't that amazing how, what was a crappy experience is actually through your healing led you into what you're doing? I just love that.
No, right? I just go, sometimes I actually have to go, oh my God, is this my life? Yes, it is. The other thing I wanted to say about that is when I was going through that paradigm shift, the new felt awkward. And, I would have to think, letting go of those old beliefs, it felt really awkward and it felt wrong until you fully embody the new beliefs. So, and I'll give you an example, that whole letting go of that 6-figure security in government and, and doing things differently and doing business from a different perspective. Every time I would do that, I'd feel, I'm not doing the right thing. This isn't what I was taught. This isn't how it should be. It feels like when you're trying on new things, when you're trying on even new shoes or new clothes or whatever, it felt different. It felt awkward because it wasn't what I was used to. So I had to cast off all of that stuff. So if you are feeling like it's not real, just keep going because it can be real. It is real.
I'm going to absolutely back you up on that because, you know, it's very similar to you. Because of my experiences, I have been led into doing what I'm doing now. And it did feel awkward. You know, when I started doing this and I started working with people who've survived all kinds of abuse, I was like, I don't know that I'm qualified. I don't know that I can do this. But it was, for me personally, it was like at the beginning of this year, 2020, I had this shift in myself that went, you are exactly where you need to be.
Perfect.
And when that happened, it was like, whoa, I can't even explain what it was like. It's just like a light bulb coming on.
I know. 2020 is it already is a magnificent year for all of us. It really is. 2020 vision, we're flying. We really are.
So with you there, sister. So just to finish off, so where can people find you on, in particular, of course, social media? How can they get in contact with you?
Well, if you're looking for social media, I do have a business page. It's called Social Media with Adaire, and you're welcome to send me a message on that page. I've just finished setting up the new chat bot on there. And if you are in the healing or alternative therapies or coaching space, please do drop in and please, send me a message on social media with Adaire or even personal, Adaire Palmer on Facebook. I'm more than happy to connect personally because it is all about the heart. It's all about personal connection. So while I've automated systems and teach people how to do that, it really is about the heart-to-heart connection. And as Mari Smith says, she's my favourite influencer, you can care at scale. So send me a message and I'm sure there'll be a link here somewhere.
Definitely.
Or reach out and connect with me personally. If you are looking for some help, some counselling, some therapy yourself, if you're whatever you're doing, if you're not in business for yourself, please reach out as well because I have an amazing network of people that are healers, that are practitioners, highly, highly skilled, who can help you. And I'm more than happy to give a referral.
And I can back that up too. I know that Adaire works. I know a lot of the amazing people that you have access to. So totally back you up there. So thank you, my darling, for sharing your story with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It has, yes.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me here too. I've really enjoyed our chat and I'm actually honoured. So I can't wait to see how far this goes. Your podcast is a winner. I know.
Thank you, beautiful lady. All right, we will see you again soon.